powerful, powerful scriptures today. And if you forget everything that happens in the next 15 minutes, I want you to walk out with the term massive living table. Massive living table, because what our God desires with Jesus as bread of life, that we would all participate in creating a massive living table for the sake of all in this world. And what that means is that that all people will be gathered not just at this table as we gather in this space, but as we gather at our tables out there in our homes, living rooms, in our world. You see, God dreams of a massive living table where people of all places, all countries, all cultures, all races, all religions, that we could sit at that table and we could actually participate in life together, recognizing that we are better together, that we're stronger together, that we can learn from one another, that we can sit and listen to one another, and because of that be shaped and formed more fully into the world and into the people that God has in mind. Can you imagine that kind of table? It's tough to think about, isn't it? Well, also imagine a table where, people who you really struggle with, somebody maybe that you just don't get along well with, that you can actually sit down and break bread, living bread together. Because Jesus promises to be in that space. Jesus promises to be giving life to you as you do that. And frankly, we need each other. We need each other to do that in order to live as God would dream. So a massive living table. You know, me as a kid, some of my best memories of growing up, I grew up in a family where everybody lived within 8 miles of each other. And what that meant is everybody had to celebrate a birthday party, and everybody on Sunday afternoon had to go to everybody else's house throughout the year and spend 3, 4, 5 hours at that birthday party. And it was awesome. Because one, we had a lot of junk food, a lot of good homemade ice cream and that kind of stuff. But what made it awesome was the connection, the people, the story of being together. And I think when you think of a massive living table, don't you think of the holidays or a time when you just yearn for being together, home-cooked food where you take time, hours together. The most underutilized space in our homes today are our dining room or our kitchen tables. It used to be that people would sit at those every day of the week. That was just the gathering spot. And now because we're go, maybe once, maybe twice, young families say we're lucky if a week goes by and we actually were able to do that, especially if it meant a home-cooked meal. So a massive living table, again, drawing people into that, where we can see each other as brothers and sisters joint on the journey. Does that give you peace and hope that that bread of life is always going to be present? And as we know throughout each month here in our life together, Jesus is broken and poured out for all, for you, for the sake of the world. He's bread of life. He's bread of life. And we need to be sitting at a table together in order to share who he is, what God's hopes and dreams are, and what that can look like through each of us. But I'm convinced Jesus, through the church, is able to bring that to bear so that we can actually experience it within our lifetime, that massive living table. But as we heard Dean talk about, we live in a junk food culture, don't we? And when I use the word junk food culture, I also mean fast food culture. I could bore you with statistics that would boggle your mind today over the proliferation, the exponential use of those kinds of things. I'm always amazed, if you go to Chick-fil-A, is that right, Chick-fil-A? We have one of those over here. And that line will often be 20, 30 cars deep. It's crazy to me. We wait in line for fast food. Something about that seems odd, right? But yeah, we want it fast and we want it now. Our ovens in our homes have been replaced by microwaves. I had a friend in Austin. She worked for Hormel, and she was in the division where they did research on the newest products for consumables, fast consumables, pre-made foods, where people could just grab and go. And it was the challenge because that industry is always changing and people want it to be better and often a little bit more healthy. And so how do you do that with the stuff that you can do? So she was always under a lot of pressure and stress to perform and make that happen. But if my kids are sitting in my kitchen and there's a box of donuts or an elephant ear or maybe, what else, Susan? Gummy bears, French fries, chips, Doritos, all that kind of stuff, they're going to just be all over it, right? And if sitting next to it is blueberries, bananas, and broccoli, because we've made them feel guilty, they might occasionally take one of those, but that will look like it's barely been touched and the other will look like it's been destroyed, right? Because we tend to feast on the things that are, addicting us, grabbing us, holding us, and not letting us go. It's part of our junk food culture. But again, I want to take that metaphor, that analogy, and I want to move that forward. There's other ways that kind of culture is infecting us today. And I want to talk about 3 of those. It's a culture of fear, it's a culture of isolation, and it's a culture of greed. Those are examples that the fast food culture is doing with our lives. First, that culture of isolation. Years ago, people would gather in those living rooms and take a lot of time together. People would, on Sunday afternoons, we would do a family drive. We'd head out and go somewhere with no intent where we were really going to end up. We were just out spending time together. And again, in a ramped up culture with more and more things to do, things being offered to young families all the time for kids and all of these things, we just go, and then we wonder why we run around dog tired. But it also means that we're pulling away from the real essence of relationship and community. And so we have a culture of isolation, loneliness, and that often leads to despair or to all kinds of other issues that well up in our life. Friends of ours in Haiti, many of you know I've traveled to Haiti for over 18 years, work with an organization called the Haitian Timoun Foundation, who I'll be sharing more with you about and hoping we can rekindle our partnership in Haiti by participating there, doing summer camps for kids, those kinds of things. But our friends in Haiti will often, when I travel there, as we're sitting around eating together, they will look at us and they will ask that question. They'll say, in America, we continually hear about this epidemic of people taking their lives, ending their lives, of people not doing well because of whatever's going on. And in their Haitian mindset will say, we can't understand that. We would never even think about taking our life. Now, church, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Most people live on $400 a year or less. Many would consider Haiti a fifth world country, meaning it's so removed from the economies of scale that it cannot produce enough to bring its people up and out of poverty. There's not even a chance to do that. Their life is hard and it's difficult. They can't imagine ending their life. And yet they say in a culture, in a place where you have all these resources and all of these things and stuff that's so accessible to you, that's what's happening. It doesn't make sense. In church, I think you would say too, it doesn't make sense. But in Haiti, the one thing I know that they do and they do really well, they radically count on each other. It's rare that you would see somebody cutting themselves off from the true essence of community or saying, I got this, I can do this by myself. It's simply not in their vision or in their mindset. This is often why I say we need Haiti more than Haiti needs us, because they're showing us what real life can really look like. And when you travel there, you see people sitting around eating together, talking and sharing in story. And I think we too need more of that massive living table. Many of you don't know this, but we had a memorial service here on Friday. And the worship service itself was powerful, but the most powerful time for me was when we were right out here in this fellowship space, as people sat at that table that was beautifully decorated, and there was love, and there was laughter, and there was friendship. It's a massive living table where people were getting their life back. They were being raised up as God's people. Well, some of you saw this maybe this last week. Charles Schulz had this comic strip, wildly popular with Charlie Brown. And there was a school teacher who kept writing Charles Schulz to say, when are you going to have an African-American character in your comic strip? And this happened shortly after, she started writing him shortly after the assassination of MLK. And Charles Schulz really wrestled with that for a period of time because those who were behind the scenes controlling the publication of that. And finally, he introduced this character, Franklin. And this is this is actually the first piece of that comic strip that people saw. And what I love there is the hand outreach to both. And it says, I'm very glad to know you. Not, hey, good to meet you, and then pass on by, or see somebody in the hallway, how you doing? Fine, and you just keep on walking. But actually, it's good to know you, to know your story, and to know your life, and who you are as God's people. A radical difference. But again, looking out into a world of suspicion and fear over and against people, it's tough to do that. Only a massive living table can go to work there. This picture, an image, is of a husband who was Catholic and his wife who was Protestant. And back in the day, this was in the 1880s, they had different cemeteries. They had to be buried in different plots, but they were right next to each other. And so it was her dying wish that her kids would help build a tombstone that reached over the wall and connected her husband and her back together. Church, Catholic and Protestant. Back in the day, there was suspicion and fear. They were cut off, isolating one from another. It reminds me of my dad. When I was 15 years old and wanted to date this girl over in Centerville, South Dakota, and my dad had the laundry list of questions of who she was and what her background was, and I said that she was Catholic, and my dad looked at me and said, son, don't start what you can't finish. See, my dad had been told that. You don't marry somebody who has a different faith background than you. And I was like, what? Say what? Dad, what did you say? Explain that to me a little bit more. And he goes, well, you're different religions. And I said, we're both Christian, for crying out loud, right? I mean, but if you can't even get that, how do you begin to truly walk alongside others to get that massive living table? Church, we got to keep tearing down those walls, tearing down these mindsets that we've had that keep us separated one from another. Again, a massive living table is truly being present in one another's life. Another part of that culture of fear that the media feeds us, that the world story feeds us, is that certain people are bad. And then you begin to look at all people as though they may be bad. One of those that is often said in our world is all Muslims are bad. Well, church, there's a ministry in India that I've participated in for over 15 years. And I have Muslim friends who we've sat and ate dinner together. I've been in a Muslim mosque learning from a Muslim imam. I have no fear. This is somebody that would lay down their life for me, and I would certainly lay down my life for them. We are more similar than dissimilar. We're made to do life together at a massive living table. And God needs churches like Grace to begin to create that kind of world where people truly can be present and walk with one another. That culture of fear, again, smashes new ideas, smashes anybody who looks different or maybe thinks different. But God would say, no, bread of life poured out for you and you and you, and all really means all. Y'all, all really means all. And there's no second guessing that. When Jesus is pouring out his life, it's for all, for the sake of all. A massive living table of journeying and trust together. And the last one, real quick, is this culture of greed that we have in our world. A world that tells you you'll never have enough, and if you start believing you'll never have enough, you'll work yourself to death thinking you have to have more, and then you'll still not have enough, right? And then it also gets into the human psyche where we start saying, I'm not enough because I don't have enough. And when you start believing that you're not enough, what begins to happen? The junk food culture, the fast food culture of just you're passing through versus being deeply engaged with and for one another. We are made to live generous lives, pouring out lives for all. And a culture of greed simply does not work. And so, church, a massive living table is a table of generosity and abundance. It's a table of life. My favorite tables have always been at the church. Because when a church gathers and eats a meal together, what ends up happening? Everybody brings something, right? Yeah, the Apostle Paul's talking about this today when he brings up this spirit of gifts and the spirit of unity. And that spirit of gift and spirit of unity means that everybody lives their passion and their skill or brings whatever it is that they have to the table. And through that, all are blessed. All are embraced. Albert Einstein had that quote, you can choose to look at life as though everything is a miracle or as though nothing is. I choose to look out and see everything is miracle and everything is gift. Did any of you do anything to get yourself here into the world? You might just want to send a thank you note to your mom and dad, wherever they are. They did that. You did nothing. That's a whole other lesson for the kids who are here today. But we let you do that on your own. But you showed up out of grace and gift. And the bread of life, Jesus, stands before you today as pure grace and pure gift. There's nothing you can do to make God love you any more or any less. He simply is bread, the bread of life, broken and poured out for you. So again, grace, as you live as the church, both here and out there in the world, go and create massive living tables where you draw in neighbor, friend, coworker, whoever it is. Look people in the eye, grab them by the hand, say, good to know you, and journey fully together. The cul-de-sac where we moved into back in May, I've been here a little over 3 months now, and I've only met one of my neighbors. And it's because he's in the front yard all the time, so we talk. The other homes I've went and knocked on the doors, and even though there's cars in the driveway, nobody ever opens the door. Maybe they think I'm there to, I don't know, look at me, right? I mean, I must be scary. I don't know. But the door's never open. The conversation's never had, and nobody's ever come down my driveway to say hello. It's an example. We're going too fast. We got too much to do. We don't even know the people right next to us. So again, unity in the body of Christ is sharing love. It's growing in faith. It's being intentional about what we do. And it's feasting on Jesus, knowing the heart of God. As you said this morning, as you came to worship, you want to know the heart of God. You want to experience the life that he gives. And so equip each other, encourage each other, and go live it. And so let's end by saying that wonderful, beautiful liturgy of bread of life together one more time. Because we needed to reconnect to the source of all, the eternal one that has always been and always will be, sent his son Jesus to demonstrate mercy and unity under God. Oppressed people heard him and followed him as he fed the hungry and satiated thirst with living water. Many didn't recognize that it was more than a physical miracle. This is when faith became the work of the people, everyone's opportunity to never be without God ever, ever again. Amen.
Thanks for watching. I hope this video can further the discussion of your relationship with Christ, either at home or maybe in the comments below.